Hey guys, Max Teabag here with another variables tutorial. And in this tutorial, we're going to talk about databases. So in the previous tutorial, we learned about how to send in custom variables into the website and so the website can do stuff with it. Now we want to save that variable inside a database. And if you're using Azure like I am, you can easily set up a database with their system. If if you don't if you're using something else, you know what to do. You can just Google how to make a database, and you need a server. You can like Google free database, and you get like a one that lasts like a week, and you have to refresh it or something. So if you're using Azure like me, you can just add it here and set the database name and stuff like that. So it's pretty much self-explanatory. And now I'm gonna go back to the code, and we're gonna set this beast up. So okay, so first of all, um, we need to get a connection string. So hmm. So this will be a connection string here, and that is my password. I'm gonna just to be super safe, I'm going to, so you guys don't see it because that is my password. um, Public static my password. So I'm just saving that as a string and a static variable in another class, so I'm sure that you guys will not see it. And so yeah, we're just setting up the connection to the database here by having the data source and the user ID, the password, and the name of the database. So now we have the connection builder. Um, let's now make a um, insert insert SQL query. So I can actually do that outside those braces here. And we can have a string builder. So basically what a string builder is like you can add uh, text, you can modify a string, and it uses like 4,000 less computer processing power than just having a normal string and then just adding on top of it. It's super fast. Yeah, so this was something I copy pasted from another project. Um, Now we are going to need something called SQL Server Management. So if you just go SQL Studio Management 2000, yeah, whatever that version works for you. Just you need to download that in order to manage your database. Okay, cool. Now we are in SQL Server Management Studio, and I'm gonna use my test database here. I made a new database in Azure, and I now connected it up with the right string and the password and username, and now I can make a query. And if you want to make something unique, you have to learn SQL. Hold on, I'm not going to make a database, I'm going to make a new query. So this is basically commands we can send into the database. And what these are SQL commands. So I'm going to go, you're probably going to Google this a lot as well. You're going to Google SQL. And just whatever you're wondering about, V3 Schools has a great documentation about SQL. It's not the hardest language in the world. It's quite simple. So we create a table, which is basically you can store information in here, columns and rows and stuff like that. And the table name is going to be test table, and it's going to contain a player login, and this is going to be a string, but in oh, there's a lot of test tables here. Create table test table 3. So yeah. And in SQL world, the string is a varchar, and we're gonna save the integer that it gets sent in. So just some value. There, and just put a comma to separate these. Oh, I'm so used to C#. There we are. And now we can select that and execute. And what we want to do is, the query we want to do in our code is insert into test table 3, and then player login, some value. So these are the kind of the order which are the values. And the values are let's see, maxi bay, and we're gonna put in 43. Cool. Let's see if this works. One row affected, and to just see everything already in the base, we say select star, which means everything. We select everything from test table here. Why don't you work? What? What? Am I missing something really obvious? Oh. It's getting late. Select everything from the most simple query in the world and fuck it up. I'm sorry. So yeah, there we go. We get a player login and some value. So this is basically what we're going to do in our code. So let's go back here, copy it back in there, and yep, and then hold on, and then I'm not going to send in these values because I want to send in the player login. So we are going to send in the pb2 data dot login, and so we don't need that. And then instead of 43, we escape the string and we insert the amounts. So that is our SQL query there. So now we can actually edit a database from Plasmaverse 2. And that should be it. So let's just test this. Actually, before testing it, we don't want to return this, because that means that this code will not run, because whatever that happens after we return will not, the code will just end. So we just move this down here, and instead of just returning all of that, by the way, I had to move the return value statement here down here, because if it was up there, then that means this code will not run. So returning should always be the last thing that happens in the code. So now we are ready to publish. And what's kind of interesting about working with like the server stuff, and it kind of gets a while to get used to, is that I can actually do changes to my map without actually changing the map. I can just work with code. And so right now my website is publishing, and right now I'm just waiting here in the map for my site to be published. Okay, so now my map is published. It's loading. And response is database changed. And let's see, in database here, we select everything here. And we see that max tbag and some value 40. Cool. So that is the player who pressed the button, and that is the variable name, or the variable value. Now, remember how we talked about in the earlier tutorials that we only detect if the we show only text to the player who actually pressed the button. This is crucially important when you're working with these kind of SQL requests in multiplayer maps, because if you leave it as this, then that means that everyone who is in the game will also send a request. Because think of it like when you show a text in the trigger, everybody in the map will see the text. Likewise, if you send a request in one of the triggers, then everyone will send a request. And then you will just have everybody in the map will also send their value in the variable name. So cool. And let's make another site here. I'm sorry. And kind of a request thing here. And what I'm going to do is say get amount of. So we want a amount of a particular user. So username. So now we want to get something from the database and return it. So we do the same thing. We have the username as a variable here. Get database response. Ooh. And since we only want something from the database, and we're sending everything that we need to know with this, since we don't care about the PB2 data anymore, so we can just remove that. We can just remove that. And cool. And let's do some changes. Well, actually, I'm just gonna copy and paste something. From another project, which is my parkour map. Actually, I can just make it very simple. So I can actually, it's a very simple query. So I can just code it in C#, I guess. So here is my query, and what I want to do is I want to select the value. So select some value from, and then a table name, which is called test table 3, where, so this is like you select only the certain rows with a particular condition, and I say where the player login, I'm just gonna make sure that it's correct here, so where the player login is equals to, and then I have two parentheses, and then I use I actually have to do a string here, and then username, and then select username in here, and then since we're working with as well, you need those quote marks. So we are just trying to mimic the way we're coding in here. Cool. And that's pretty much it. And now we are getting the data, but we have to read it. We have to read the information, and we're now only expecting one variable, but that's fine. So what we're doing is we can store the return int value here. So this is what we're going to be returning, and we can say that the value, the return value, which is return value, the return value equals the reader.getInt 0. No, I'm sorry. Get select some value. Well, I'm doing that, so yeah, that should work. Get into 32. And this is the index of the columns. So what that means is, hold on. What that means is, let's just do the same query in this SQL Server Management. Yeah? Select some value from test table 3, where player login equals max cbag. Let's see if this works. And we get 40. And so this will be index 0. if I select everything, this will be index 0 and this will be index 1. But since we are only selecting some value, then we can just read the 0 index. So the first column, the only column. And yeah, that's pretty much it. And then we just return value. Okay, cool. And so now we know that our value is 40, right? And now we're gonna send that information back to Plasmaverse 2. So what we have to do is get amount of, so we have to change our requests to get amount of, and the parameter, it required devline, we're going to change this to target username, and instead of 40 we're going to actually send this, let's see if we're going to get the user. So yeah, so I want the current username. So what I need to do is first I need to set the value. I just want the value of the current player. Okay, so let's get the current so set value of this this current slot player. Current slot. This is not used. And then we now we have the slot of the current player. And now we say get the login name with slot B. So we set variable the local login, and we set that wait, what? I'm getting tired. With slot B, yeah, so current slot. We get the current slot of the player and we get the nickname from that slot. Perfect. And now we add it to the end of the other request string. End of the string. So requests and then local login. Perfect. Now let's publish this and see if this works. Yeah, I get a build error because I try to return okay the return value, but I have to say in OK. So it's a HTTP response. So okay, let's see. My login is maxhebag. And an error.